start. Anybody like to make a comment? Yeah, so Reece, while you're writing, I'm going to blibber on then, just for a minute, while you're writing. I'll just share one of mine. Points of connection was, there's a debate within the field of arts-based research methods about whether to use the method, you have to be qualified to a particular level. So for example, if Meadows using story, should he be qualified as a storyteller? No, should have a background and an experience in it. It's called the qualifications debate. And it's just one of the discussions that's going on in the field. Maybe Fidel might refer to that later on, I know you've looked at it. And quite reasonably, people are saying, well, you're qualified to study research, you know, you do courses, you read books. How can you come in and suddenly start telling stories when you've done nothing in storytelling? Like, artists don't just become artists, so do you need to have done it? In Meadows' case, he's done an MA in storytelling. So he's looked at it, seen it, practiced it, done it, he's got that. Does that mean that you can't use this unless you have got that? Or actually, is it perfectly legitimate to use as a method? That you don't need that level of qualification to use it? If you do go down a strict route in that debate and say you have to be qualified, it's really going to restrict the field, isn't it? Because everyone will be trying to qualify in all different methods. And I use, for example, several fine art-based methods, and I wouldn't in any way say I'm qualified as a fine or visual artist. So where I sit in that qualifications debate is, you don't necessarily need to be qualified to a certain level, but it would be naive and presumptuous not to have really looked at what storytelling's about and engaged with it on a practical level or on a theoretical level to actually find out what it's about. Otherwise, I think, my perspective is, you're diminishing the whole field. So if somebody can come from engineering and suddenly say, yeah, oh, I can do this drama stuff, I go like, oh, well, I guess I can design a bridge. Yeah, I'll do that, I'll do a drawing and we'll make one. It's like, that would be presumptuous and naive, I think, wouldn't it? Stupid, really, for me to suggest it. So I think it's a really interesting one, and it's not been resolved, and people position themselves in different ways to it. So my question to come back would be, you know, how do you position yourself in this? What's your take on that? Yeah. Anyway, that's one point I put forward. Any other points that anybody had or connected with?
I was really intrigued by, you spoke about the state of suspension. And I find that really interesting. Well, it's just a comment. I find it interesting as a place or as a starting point for creativity. That state of suspension of maybe frustration being the start point for the story.
So what do you think of that?
Does it make sense to me though? So that whole
Without
thing.
having the suspension.
So in a creative sense, you were talking about a Gambon state of suspension in political terms, and I think Jamie, you're saying maybe there's also something creative about being in that state as well. Is that right, Jamie?
Yeah.
That allows for creativity.
Mm.
So not necessarily just in political terms. Does, and you might agree or disagree, does that state encourage creativity, or does it mean you've got to work harder against it because you are in that state? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so having been in a state of suspension,
Yes.
yeah, it influenced my work a lot, because, you know, it is related to the whole process of staying, moving, writing. So I found that, like doing something I love, using or being in a state of something that is related to me, that I'm living in, I'm affected by. And another thing is the state of suspension is related to other, you know, a participant, if they participate. The thing that you know, the audience could be from those, because recently, this was at the very beginning, the number of Palestinian scholars who are coming to the UK to do their MA or doctoral studies is significantly increasing. Like the scholarship I have, like recently, the number, I contacted the Palestinian consulate in London. They say that I think now there is more than 360 Palestinians studying in the UK. Some of them went back, some of them are staying, but they said that the number is increasing significantly. So it is related, and most of them have this case of suspension. So it is about, you know, a state being related to the audience, to a large part of the audience, a state in which I lived for a very long time, a state in which my people in Palestine lived in, and a state that is clearly stated by a gamble, and it can be applied to our situation. If this answers your question. Thank you.
Annie, were you going to say something?
This is more like an inspiration from your research position. So that I think we were talking and kind of identifying that maybe when you do research in a specific way, you face kind of a feeling of struggle, very strong emotional, kind of a perplexed feeling of how to survive in academia, how to survive in the work you are doing, and like one of you said that not to lose yourself as a person, or that you have this kind of dignity that you can go to sleep in the evening without not asking forgiveness for something you believe.
Yeah.
So I think this is maybe something more general also. It could be also in any organization, but I would say that it's something, it touches something in academia, in DNA, how academical organization is structured. And it's like, I think we should create this space for this type of, as you have done, kind of a platform or forum or process, how to explore our identities as a researcher whom is in academia, but the academia is part of the society or the world.
Yeah,
so
yeah. So yeah, not to be departed from the audience I'm addressing. Yeah, at the same time I'm doing something very personal, very. Yeah, you are absolutely right. Yeah.
And then I was sort of thinking that how do you feel? What is your emotion of doing this? That you have made a decision to do your research in this way?
Well, as I told you, yeah, it is. I have like a strong passion toward doing that in that way, because this is the way I love. This is the way I feel involved. This is the way I want to convey when I go back to Palestine, because we don't have. I can't say that. I did it, but I know that, to the best of my knowledge, that we don't do this type of research. So yeah, this is what makes me involved more and more. Although I face some difficulty in some stages, but still the passion toward doing that is what will make me overcome in some stages. You know, I struggle. But yeah, because I really like it. I'm really involved in it. So I think this is what will make hopefully a good piece at the end. Because now still it is at the very beginning, or let's say in the first stages. So yeah, the more I read, the more I know about, because this was completely new for me, and I really wanted to know more and apply it. Because I think many people would like, you know, it could be a starting point for others to start adopting this approach, or to start thinking about it. Because even the way my background is not education, so I'm a translator mainly at UNRWA. So during my work, as a translator, you know, I translate a lot of theses, and I feel that in Palestine, like a lot of researchers, just, you know, they collect data, they analyze it, and they analyze it in a very systematic way. They present and I was telling Alan about that, like, I found that although some of them were engineering, management, I don't say that much, but I feel that they say X said blah blah blah, Y said blah blah blah, Z said blah blah blah, the conclusion. So it seems that they have a format, you know, or a template, and they are following. You don't feel, even my wife, she started master recently, she got her MBA back in Palestine, but she's doing creative industries. And it is a coincidence that I have creative and she has a creative degree. And she was saying that, you know, I feel that I'm learning something for the first time, because when she did her dissertation, she said that we have a template, do this, do that, and that's it. While here, it is completely different. So one of the reasons as well is encouraging others to start to do it. I will have a lot of disadvantages, a lot of maybe negative points, but I believe that, you know, I will improve myself and others can start from the point where I finish or will finish.
Thanks, man. I'm conscious of the time. It's to say, I mean, maybe as I was listening to you, there's a lot in there about these claims that the French team were talking about. Does, through this use of story, does it make things accessible? Would other scholars, say, who are coming across from Palestine and Hespal, be more likely to look at and read this? Would it make it more accessible for others? And Mido's not gone into all the methodological use of story. Of course, there's a long history of how story has been used in research. And that ranges into sort of the ethnodramatic and in story in more conventional senses. So there's a whole literature around that, of course. But thanks for sharing that insight into your experience of that, Mido, especially this felt experience. That's the sort of key area that that's touching on, and how that doesn't slip into the unreflexive autobiographical presentations of myself, which we would be critiqued for by anyone in the academy as research. How do you weave the theory, for example, of nomadism into a narrative so it's there but it's not stated overtly? There's this sort of challenge in it. And thanks for sharing the position that you're in up to now.